Alright, today we're going to talk about equations of parabolas. Alright guys, so quick review. What is the vertex of each parabola? Remember our equation for a parabola is y equals ax minus h squared plus k. Okay, and our parabola was just the point, or our vertex was just the point hk. Okay, that was that middle or the start of our parabola was just the point hk. So, if I wanted my point hk, remember this is our h, this would be our k. Okay? So remember, it's x minus h. So my h is actually going to be the opposite. It's not going to be negative 4, but it'll be positive 4. But my k is just negative 2, because remember that h value, or that left to right shift, is always opposite. So then over here, my hk, or my vertex, would be negative 3, positive 1. That's going to help us out later on. Now, here's some steps if they give us the vertex, how to write it or solve for vertex form. So our first thing is we're going to substitute our vertex, or our h and k. Then we'll plug in our x and y point. We'll have to find a, and then we're going to use our a, h, and k to write our equation at the end. And that'll make some sense when we actually try it. But before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at a problem like this. It says write the equation for the parabola that has been shifted left 5 times, up 4 times, and stretched by the factor of 3. So remember, our equation is y equals a x minus h squared plus k. Okay? So y equals, okay, well, it's shifted to the left 5 times. So left 5 would tell me that this would be x, not minus 5, but plus 5. Okay, squared. It was up 4, so it's going to be plus 4 for my k. And then a is our stretch or compression. Well, it's stretched by a factor of 3, so that tells me that a is going to be 3. And that's my equation. Okay, if I take a look at this one, right, the equation of a parabola that has been shifted down 4 times and reflected horizontally across the x-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and write my equation, or my vertex form of the equation. Okay, so now I have y equals, and I can kind of put in my x, at least start it off. Okay. So it's shifted down 4. So it's not left to right at all. So I know that this is just going to be no h value. But since it's down 4, my k is going to be minus 4. Okay? And reflected horizontally across the x-axis. So we talked about when it's reflected, that means our a value is negative. So my a is just going to be a negative. So I could write it like that, or I could just write it as y equals negative x squared minus 4. So you could have the parentheses there or not. Okay, now let's look at this one. Find the equation of a parabola whose vertex is at 5, 2 and passes through the points 3, negative 10. So this equation is going to help us out. Okay? In order to write an equation, we need our h, our k, and our a. Okay? Well, it gives us the vertex, so it gives us h and k. Okay? It also gives us a point, which is just an x and a y point. The only thing we're missing is an a value. So we need to figure out what a is. So the first way to do that is let's plug in our h and k and plug in our x and y. So my y is negative 10, plus or minus. We don't know what a is. Our h value is, or sorry, our x value is 3, so I'm going to go ahead and put 3 minus my h, which is 5, and my k, which is plus 2. So if you notice, I just plugged in our points from up here. I just plugged in our points into the h, k, x, and y into this formula, or this form. Okay? Now let's go ahead and solve for a. Okay, so I'm going to do my parentheses first. So I have a, and then I have 3 minus 5 is negative 2 squared plus 2. All that equals negative 10. So negative 2 squared is 4. So I have 4 times a, or 4a, plus 2 equals negative 10. Now I'm going to subtract 2 to both sides. So I have negative 12 equals 4a. Divide both sides by 4. So a equals negative 3. Okay, so I have my a value. I also have my h and my k. So I'm going to use those to write my final equation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and box that out. So I have y equals, my a is negative 3, x minus 5, or minus my h, so minus 5 squared. And then my k is just 2, so I'm just going to put plus 2. Okay, so that's my final equation. So in our final answer, we don't use our x and our y. Okay, those are just used to find the a value. Okay, let's look at this next one. So my vertex is my hk. Then I have an xy. Okay, we're going to plug it into y equals a x minus h squared plus k. So now I'm going to plug in my y, which is 4, equals a, and then my x is -1 minus -3 squared, which we know that's going to become a plus. So then plus 0. Now let's go ahead and solve for a. So we have 4 equals, well, that's -1 plus 3 is 2, so a times 2 squared plus 0. Hey, we don't really need that plus 0, but I can do 2 squared, which is 4. A equals 4. Divide both sides by 4, so a equals 1. All right, so now I have my a and my h and k, so let's write our equation. I'm going to change colors. So we have y equals my a, which is 1, which we don't necessarily need to put it there. Then x minus a -3, so that becomes a, and we can just write that as a plus 3, because remember, our h value is just kind of the opposite, squared. Then plus k, which is 0, so I really don't need my k value since it's just 0. And there's my answer. Okay, go ahead and give your practice problems a try, and best of luck.